Another question? Yes.
Right. Robert Hunter, Livingston. Essex County my whole life. You have your position because my friend, well, he's still a friend, was put in prison in Kentucky. That's the house I grew up in. And that's why you spoke. This is the question now. You've been interacting all this time. And it really bothers you. It has to bother you, your conscience, all right? Yes. Because we're number one in the country in taxes. We're number one in corruption. We took over Illinois' position. Sorry, Mr. Obama. But that's where we're at. And that bothers me. It really does. Yeah. The question is, does it bother you in Trenton when you're there to pick up the paper and someone else is going up the river? How does it feel? That's the question. Does it bother you?
We'll start with Mr. Major. Oh, you can start. Yes. Of course it bothers. It bothers people. I would point out that the problems, the difficulties for which my predecessor and many others, most of the others who have gone to jail, were at the municipal level. They were not at the state level. And that, I think, has to do with the fact that on the state level, we have some very strict ethics laws. And in fact, I'm still understanding all the ethics laws. We have an ethics attorney in Trenton with whom we have to meet individually once a year to go over all of our disclosure statements, to go over the rules. We have to take an online course every year and certify. They have to certify that we've gone through all of it. I think that needs to be expanded to the municipal level. Mr. McKeon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't tell you how profoundly sad it makes me. You know, you go into public office with the hope of making your family proud, of making an impact on people's lives, and whether it's Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, or somebody without an affiliation with the party, it's a fox on all of our houses, and shameful when that happens. The state sees as cerebral as usual and saying what laws are and this, that, and the other thing. The vast majority of people that do what they do convicted of bribery, which has been illegal for about 100 years. When it comes to it, you can't legislate morality. It's a matter of having good people with the right moral compass to make good decisions, not their own interest, but in the interest of people they represent.
Mr. Meyerowitz, how would you respond?
Well, I would agree with Senator McKeon with saying you have to have good moral people in office. And the tragedy of politicians being arrested is that these people belong in jail, but what happens, good people decide not to vote. And they say, oh, all the politicians are crooked, I'm not going to vote anymore, I'm not going to bother anymore. So as a result, the machine gets more votes. The people who turn out by machine are helped. And that very often helps increase the corruption again, because good people are not voting. And it's very hard for me, as someone running for office, where people don't know me, and because I'm running for an office, they assume I'm crooked. You know, it's not a nice feeling, and it kind of hurts when someone says that. But later on, people, someone else will say, well, thank you for running. I like what you're saying, and I'm going to vote for you. So that makes up for it. But it really, the culture of corruption, the tragedy is that good people decide, they throw in the towel, they say there's nothing we can do, and I'm not going to vote anymore. And that just helps the next guy to become a crook, because no one's going to be watching them anymore. So the thing we have to do as citizens, whether it's Republicans in office or Democrats in office, we all have to be on top of our elected officials, and that includes me. Because if you don't watch what they're doing, it's like giving the teenagers, and there are good teenagers, but it's like giving kids, the key to your house, say, here, go into the basement, we're going to leave for the weekend, because they're going to run wild. And if the citizens of the state don't stay on top of their politicians, the politicians have and will continue to run wild.
Yes, I agree. You cannot legislate morality. And it is a tragedy what has happened in the state to become a national joke as we are. I believe that, and of course, corruption problem in our state is a bipartisan problem, which is what it is. That's terrible. I believe, though, that the overall culture of corruption that allows the actual corruption that we hear about is born, as I said, in the conflicts of interest. There is when our politicians have a duty, and I believe our job, of course, is to represent the taxpayers, but if you're getting campaign contributions from those who are receiving those other public dollars, and you see this whether it's developers or the whole range of conflicts of interest, it puts you in a position where you're susceptible to those kinds of things. So I feel very strongly that the way to fix that is we need to tighten our conflict of interest laws. We need to end pay-to-play, which should extend to unions who represent public employees and a whole range of groups, so that our only responsibility will be to you. That's the way I've conducted my campaign. That's the way I've taken very careful about who I received contributions from. I hope that if I'm successful and you all recognize that and it reverberates to you, and then you can help support candidates that want tonight, you'll see the change, because our only responsibility will be to you.
Any comments, Herbert?
Yeah, Mr. Funt, again, I don't know whether it's about you, but, you just see, I just see the worst, or try to take advantage of what people think and go for the lowest common denominator. People who are not people of means, I know you loaned yourself $15,000, you're spending more money than I am on this campaign. As it relates to, and again, you have a national consultant, and I guess that loan that we're going to give it to yourself, probably you're going to raise money, I guess, to pay yourself back at some point in time. But at the end of the day, you can't legislate morality. I don't care who might think well enough of me to give me their hard-earned dollars to support my position in public office. I'm going to make decisions in the best interest of people. And that's my moral compass, and that's how I've conducted myself my entire public career.
Mr. Meyerowitz?
No, I didn't. Oh,
That's very I'll speak. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a national firm giving me advice. Yes, I have someone who printed a brochure for me, but this campaign is me and a few other people who care about the things I'm talking about, who have volunteered their time, and so put a consulting group behind me. And yes, whatever few dollars I put together, I helped to try to fund this campaign to get the message out, because while I may have spent more than you already had $220,000 in your bank account before I even decided to run. So that kind of thing makes it difficult for people like me to come up and get our message out, because people look at that and they say, well, I give you money, So
Thank you.